And we're live. Welcome everybody to this week's LinkedIn Live with Gain. And this week we are lucky enough to be joined by the Maitre team. So we have Owen Heavey and Connor Shaw on the call. So would you just introduce yourselves, please?
Hi everybody, Owen Heavey here. I'm the CEO of Maitre, which is a hotel operations management software company. My previous company was a hotel staffing and management company in New York, and that's kind of where Maitre kind of came from, seeing the kind of issues or things that could be improved in the hotel operations space, and looking forward to speaking with everybody today.
Thanks so much, Owen. So you're in New York right now, yeah? You've just arrived, I hear.
Yes, I've been here for a long time, been here for roughly 20 years, but it's nice to be back after a few months in Europe with Connor over there, and looking forward to being back here for the hot summer.
Brilliant. And Connor, you're in Ireland, so tell us a bit about yourself.
I am. It's 4 seasons here today. We've had rain, sunshine, cold, everything. So my name is Connor Shaw. I'm head of EMEA with Maitre. My background is in hotels. I've primarily worked in standalone 5-star luxury properties, the Mary and then the Gem Manor, where I've worked in a variety of different roles in management positions and across commercial side of it as well. So excited to be working with Owen and Maitre, helping develop the product from an operational perspective. It's something that I'm passionate about and very much enjoying our work together.
Brilliant. So, Connor, I know that you've had a very long history, actually, before working in a tech startup for hospitality. You've had a very long history in hotels, and I think that's quite a special place to be. I'm always a little bit envious of people like you who have had that ground experience and then come into tech, because I really feel like it gives you that special viewpoint, and you've walked in the GM's shoes, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. I suppose my eyes were opened a little bit when I first saw Maitre. When Owen first showed it to me last year, I immediately understood the benefits a system like Maitre has for an operations and how it can really impact the teams within hotels. Long story short, ended up coming on board with the team here, helping develop out the product. Hotel tech is in an amazing place now. I think the industry is ready for adoption, like it may not have been previously, and certainly the workforce seems keen to get involved. So excited what we're building in Maitre.
Yeah, definitely. I think the best products are always born from people who say, "Oh, I wish I had that product when I was, on the shop floor, and my guests would have needed it, my staff would have needed it." So that's fantastic. And Owen, I know that you mentioned you worked in a management company before, and that really gave you the insight as well for creating Maitre. So maybe a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think when I started my first hotel business, Green Park, I think a lot of the different processes that we saw that we were running in our hotels, could have been run a lot better, could have made our lives a lot easier. And kind of coming out of COVID, I think staffing has always been, it's always been a pain point for hotels, whether it's been from finding the staff or managing them in a more efficient way. And that's kind of where we kind of went with Maitre. It was kind of needed to build a product that was very easy to use for staff. Making sure that they don't have to learn something or learn a new language to understand how to use the product. And something that will give management oversight and communication capability across the hotel, not having to run floors, not having to understand where everybody is, being able to do it from a centralized place is kind of what we were doing, but needs to be very, very simple. Can't overcomplicate things, and just make things easy to adopt and helpful for middle management at the hotel.
Yeah, definitely. I think, today we really don't want complicated systems that we crazy onboardings, neither for staff, on the actual staff that are on the ground, the housekeepers, with their mobile, or for the hotel managers that are looking at the screen. It's got to be something that they can click through and just get really quickly. So I love that about your tool. I've seen it and I can corroborate on that. So back to our title for today. We're talking about high season, like it's definitely hot season, which is high season here. I'm in Barcelona and it's absolutely baking. And I always, you know, Connor, you could probably attest to this. I always just have so much respect for hotel staff and for all the operators in hotels right now, making sure that everybody has the perfect holiday and the perfect stay, because it must be absolutely crazy. Plus the guest types are different in the summer. There's different expectations. It's all like on its head. So teams are stretched, you know, they also want holidays probably. And, you know, we're really here to talk today how we can relieve that pressure a little bit on ops teams. So Owen, what are you kind of hearing from the ground, from the GMs that you speak to day to day?
Yeah, I think so. As you said, I think it's, you know, it's a very busy time. It's kind of, you know, there's a lot of running around, a lot of kind of putting out fires and trying to, you know, best accommodate the guests that are in the hotel. You know, and again, with that, you know, you want to make sure that the systems that you have in place are helping you with that, you know, whether it's from, you know, bringing on new staff, handling turnover, you know, making sure you're getting everything done in an efficient way. You know, there's always, I think that with hotels, there's always going to be fire drills. There's always going to be unexpected things that pop up. But what makes those things detrimental or makes them a lot more difficult is when you don't have systems that are helping you in place. So if you don't have a software system that is allowing you to monitor and communicate things as you're on the go, handling these fire drills or these unexpected occurrences, that means it doubly it makes it even more difficult to handle. I think, you know, you want to have a system that's in place whereby when things do fall or things do there is issues, you do have that backdrop where things are getting done. You're able to monitor them on the go, as opposed to having to maybe run back to the housekeeping office or run back to your office to understand, you know, our check-in, our arrivals all clean, are they ready to go? All that kind of stuff can be handled on the go. And that's kind of what we're seeing. You know, I think a lot of people, obviously, it's probably not the time to be switching over or adopting a new system, but coming out of a busy season or coming out of the summer season, let's say, you know, that's when people should start looking to say, right, next year, will we be in a good place for next season, where we will have the capability to handle these things a little bit easier. And again, it's all about operational efficiency. It's all making both the line staff as well as the management's lives easier. You know, that's what we're here for, and that's kind of how Maitre was built.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. What you say about simplicity, you know, I think it's fantastic. Everything that we're seeing on the hotel tech kind of ecosystem at the moment, we're hearing AI, and it's really, really sort of futuristic. And I'm really for that, and I love that. But sometimes, you know, when I hear that hoteliers are still using pen and paper, and it's like it almost feels like the gap between the operational reality and then what we're selling to them can sometimes be light years apart. So it's like, how do we get back to basics and make sure that you know, that busy season, they're not using pen and paper, they're not using walkie-talkies, they're actually using systems that help them to manage. And if they're not, when they come out of it, they'll be so exhausted. They'll be like, that's the last summer season we're doing on pen and paper. That's I'm done now. I'm done. So so Connor, this question's for you. Talking about automation, where do you think it does kind of make the biggest difference when we're managing our staff? Like when a GM like you might be managing their staff, what is the biggest plus point there?
Yeah, I suppose with Maitre and with systems like this, it's given the managers visibility of everything that's happening on property, and Owen touched on it already. It's the ability to see what's happening in the palm of your hand, if you're on your phone or from your desktop if you're seated. And it gives you that ability then when you're getting to the likes of to midday, when you're trying to understand if you're going to make that check-in time, if your rooms are going to be ready. You probably have multiple guests on queue already or waiting for their bedroom. And it's being able to see all of this in one place without having to run the floor. In some cases, for larger properties, it's multiple floors and possibly multiple buildings as well. So all of it's been able to control and to understand everything from the palm of your hand, and then identify things in advance, so that you're getting to the point, and you're not getting to the point where it's 30 minutes out and you're scrambling to get rooms over the line, whether that's by check-in time or whether that's by end of shift time as well. So people that may have fallen behind. At this time of the year as well, when you've got kids out of school, a lot of people on annual leave, probably a few extra call-offs as well. Maitre allows you manage your operation on a stretched headcount because of that visibility it gives you and that time it gives you to react to things as well.
Yeah, I get it. So since you're automating everything, it's kind of freeing up your staff and your managers to get on with actually guest facing and handling all those exactly. Inevitable fires that are going to arise. Let's talk a bit about tracking, because we've talked about automating, we've talked about organizing staff, we've talked about kind of managing your day-to-day, but also I feel like tracking is a really important issue, because many hotels might be doing something always in the same way, and then they can't actually see where their blind spots are or where the gaps are. So Owen, why don't you take this one up? Like, how does Maitre help you to track in hotels?
Yeah, I think what we've seen with a lot of the hotels that we work with or that we're speaking with, I think from a reporting perspective or from a kind of a high level perspective, they're able to understand what their ADR is, what their CPOR is, what their cost per occupied room is, and on a high level they're able to understand is it in line with last month, is it what we want. But in regards to actually improving it, if they're using pen and paper for rooms, for engineering, for maintenance, they're not actually able to kind of dig down into that information. I think they're not able to say, right, how do we improve our costs? How do we improve this? What are the things that are tripping us up? Let's say, for example, are there different types of rooms that are problematic, or are there different reservations? How long are they taking? Should we be improving those times? A lot of those things, you're not able to, unless you're tracking them, unless you're actually have a system in place that allows you to track them, you're not actually able to get that visibility to understand it. You can understand, especially from a hotel group perspective or a management group perspective, they might have multiple hotels in their portfolio that are similar, similar star level, similar, maybe, similar flag, whatever it is, but they're not able to take best practices from different hotels if they're not tracking it. So for example, if you had a hotel in Boston that was similar to one in New York, if you're able to track those different things and understand, hey, how come they're doing these processes a lot better than this hotel when they're very, very similar? You'll be able to use that information from hotel to hotel across your portfolio to be able to improve things, and again, in a very, very seamless way. We're not recreating the wheel here. We're just making it very easy to see what's going on across your portfolio from one system. We do have a kind of multi-reporting feature which allows you to compare and contrast across your portfolio, show how different processes are being done. And with that, you'll be able to dig into the information and actually understand what's going on and what's going into that cost. If you can understand what's going into that cost, then you could obviously implement new efficiencies, or at least understand where your costs are going. I think that's kind of what we're trying to show, shed light on it and understand, hey, this is what's making up that cost, as opposed to at the moment, a lot of hotels are just seeing that on a very kind of high level or on an aggregated basis. I think with having that information, I suppose from a retroactive or a historical point of view, then it allows you to be proactive going forward, to say, hey, this is what we're going to do next month. We understood what happened last month, and we're going to implement these processes to make our costs a little bit more efficient going forward. So that's kind of what we talk about with tracking, and that's kind of, tracking. It sounds great, you can get everything in place, but it's really, really important, and it's something that we touched on before, is that ease of use. You can't, if your staff don't particularly like using the product, or it's difficult to use, or it's difficult to adopt, you're not going to get that real data. You have to have a system that's very, very, easy to adopt, and in turn, then you'll get real data, and you'll be able to understand what's going on across your portfolio or at your single property hotel.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. The most valuable resource we have is time, right? And those people hours within a hotel, if one's taking X amount and the other one's taking double, it makes no sense across a portfolio. And, you know, when we talked before, we were talking about you can't improve what you don't measure, right? So it really starts off with like being able to measure it before you can even make a strategy for improving.
It kind of goes, and it's not like a finger pointed exercise. It's more so like, you know, if you're looking at different room types and saying, hey, how come our, you know, whatever, our double king or whatever it is always takes longer, you can look at your room makeup. You can say, hey, why is that different to a similar property? Is there something in the bathroom that's taking longer to clean? Is there, you know, is there like, you know, the linen closets on the floors, you know, is there access to the different types of things that the staff need? All that kind of thing kind of implements a better process, but it's essentially it's helping the line staff as well. It's making their lives easier as well. I think, you know, when you look at how Maitre is set up, you know, it's giving the line staff access to what they need. You know, if they need more, you know, whatever it is, more product, more linens, whatever it is, they have access to be able to get it. And, you know, that's kind of fun how the communication aspect comes into it. You know, it's giving them the resources they need to get their job done a lot easier. And in turn, that helps the owners or the managers or whoever to, you know, run a more efficient and cost efficient property, you know?
Yeah, I like that a lot, because so what you're saying is, you know, clean times or anything else could, you know, it's not like, say, it's not about the staff or about criticizing staff. It's actually could be a practical issue of they've got the whole floor, or they even got to go downstairs to get the products that they need, to get the linens they need. And I remember, because I've seen a demo of the tool, you know, how it organizes the staff's day so that the rooms that they clean or the tasks that they do are near each other. Like it makes sense that they do things in an order that helps them to be more efficient, and that would be hard without having a tool behind it, especially with staff changes and this and that. So yeah, I love that. I love that for the entire staff. So one of the issues as well that we've spoken about is sometimes in our industry, many people say people are sometimes slow to adopt tech. They're hesitant to change over from one system to another, or they don't want to like rock the boat. So Connor, could you tell us a bit about, you know, how you've experienced that with Maitre and how people are reacting?
Yeah, like I completely empathize with that concern about rocking the boat. I was that person. It's and so I completely understand that feeling. And Owen touched on it a little bit earlier on. Like when you're managing teams and you're trying so hard to keep staff and retain staff, especially since COVID, I think we all got a bit of a wake up call around staffing. You want to be giving back to the team, and Maitre and systems like Maitre give that visibility for the team. I mentioned visibility earlier on, but what it does, it empowers them in their role. They're getting the update that when the room checks out, they're seeing that live on their device in front of them. They know where to go next. If they have a job order, if there's a broken light, they create the job order for maintenance, and that goes directly to the engineer. So they're not having to call their supervisor who has to do it. They're not getting a tap on the shoulder from the supervisor telling them where to go. So this real, I suppose this ability to control their day or to feel in control of the day really helps them, helps the employee experience more than anything. So get great satisfaction out of hearing from clients that the frontline team love Maitre. They don't want to go back to pen and paper. And that is quite often a concern that we hear from a lot of clients and management that we're talking to, that they're worried about that adoption. And that's what we've been super focused on with the development of Maitre, is to try to keep it as simple as possible for the frontline team to pare back all functionality to just what they need to get through their day, but giving them the access to that information that they need, and to make sure it is as simple as possible, while reserving all of the bells and whistles for management to dig into whenever they want to as well.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And, you know, getting them off the pen and paper is a great thing. I mean, you know, I guess some of your main competitors then are pen and paper and walkie-talkies, which seems crazy nowadays. But
the pagers out there as well, Zoe. There's still pagers.
Yeah, they still have market share.
I remember pagers. Had a pager before a mobile phone. Showing my age. So Owen, do you have anything to add to the whole WhatsApp? Well, WhatsApp groups are a whole thing, right? They're kind of causing a bit of a problem in all companies, I think.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, those kind of processes, they get the job done. You know, I think, you know, if you have a WhatsApp group for engineering or, you know, whatever it is, it gets the job done, but, you know, not necessarily in the most efficient way. You know, messages can get lost in WhatsApp groups, or, you know, if a large team is like on one group, you know, you have the whole team, at once a new message goes in, you have the whole team checking it regardless of whether it's relevant to them or not, you know, which, you know, causes a bit of an issue as well. You know, I think, you know, the way Maitre is set up, especially, and this is, again, going back to kind of Connor and I, you know, our background in the space, we've seen this firsthand. You know, we understand. When I was building Maitre, you know, it was following around staff on a Saturday morning, understanding how they're working and watching them use Maitre to see if it's easy, you know. And I think, you know, with Maitre, how everything is kind of streamlined to the different roles or departments that, you know, that task or request or ticket or whatever is relevant to or applicable to is very, very valuable. You know, it's not, when you get a ping from Maitre on your phone, it's because it's relevant to you. It's not something that, you know, might be a text group or, you know, talking about something else is not relevant. Everything is streamlined in a way to make you stay off your phone as long as possible. But when you need something, or when you need to communicate, or something needs to be done by you or your group, you get that notification. So that's just very important. From, you know, a lot of hotel managers, they don't want their staff on their phones the whole time. They want them, you know, either interacting with guests or doing the work, you know. And that's something that was really, really relevant for us when we were building Maitre, was to make sure that doesn't happen. You know, make sure that, you know, everything is streamlined in a way that makes it very, very easy to get the relevant information to the relevant people. So,
yeah, I can totally understand the madness of WhatsApp groups, being in many WhatsApp groups, as we all are. It's everyone sends a heart emoji, and it's like, no, not everybody needed to get that message.
And it also goes back to kind of what we were speaking about earlier, the tracking aspect of it. You know, again, if you're using pen and paper, it just gets put in the office somewhere after they've finished, or, you know, there's no way of understanding, you know, what was done at what day. Especially on, like, the likes of front desk, they love our system, because when, you know, for the likes of DNDs, you know, there's relevant information for front desk. If there is an issue with the room clean, they can show that, you know, the room was checked at X time, and, you know, there was a DND on this do not disturb sign on the door. So easy things like that allows you to track things, to give information to the necessary parties. And again, WhatsApp groups, you're not able to look back on a WhatsApp group and gain any insights from it either. So that's another kind of valuable aspect of moving away from them and moving towards a more efficient system.
Yeah, and I can also see the value for, like you say, for the staff themselves to actually protect their own job. They can, you know, they can take photos. They've done it. There's proof there. There's no arguments with the guests or with their own managers about what was or wasn't done. So yeah, it's good. It's good knowledge for everybody. We're coming to the end of the session, but I really want to hear from Connor. If you could tell us, kind of sum up like a use case for Maitre that you'd like to tell us about.
Yeah, I suppose there's like, we work with properties at all different levels. We work with hostels, we work with luxury properties. I suppose there's a couple of examples where properties have got significant benefit from Maitre, and it's how you leverage the system is the benefit you're going to get from it. So we have a group of 4 properties, 3-star properties, that we're able to consolidate the opening of their house into one manager. So they didn't have to have 4 different managers go to the individual properties. They were able to open the house from one location, issue the list for the day, issue out the morning meeting notes and morning meeting instructions. And then at the individual properties later in the morning, you would see the supervisory team come in and be able to start their day. So you're seeing an immediate ROI from a salary saving to the bottom line. In this case, in the luxury market, we're seeing it used in kind of different ways. It frees up time because you've got that visibility. You're not running the floors. You're able to shift your time to focus on things like staff training, and then obviously standard inspection as well. So they go hand in hand. and you're able to focus in on that. The team feels a little bit more supported then as well. So an all-around benefit from that perspective. You'll see an increase in your standards as well as a result of it. So you'd like to see when it comes to those, whether they're brand standards, whether it's Forbes or LQA checklists, that when those inspectors come to the property, you should feel a lot more confident in your ability to get a high mark there. And obviously these standards are so important at a luxury level. And it's also really important from a team morale perspective. When you get a mid-90s score from a Forbes or an LQA inspection, that's a huge boost to the team that they're all doing a fantastic job as well. So you've got that other benefit from a luxury perspective.
That's nice. That makes perfect sense how it fits into different segments. Interesting. Well, we've come to the end of the session. That's flown by. Thank you both. Is there anything that I've missed that you'd like to add before we go?
We covered plenty there today. That's fantastic.
We have covered a lot. Yeah, you've been great. Thank you both. I wish you all the best with this product. It makes perfect sense, and I encourage anyone who's interested to go and look on the Maitre website, to go and look on Maitre LinkedIn, or to reach out to Owen and Connor, and I'm sure they'll respond and be happy to chat.
Fantastic.
Always appreciate your time, Zoe.
Thank you, Zoe.
Take care and have a great day, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, everyone. Bye.
Take care.
Thanks, Phil. Bye-bye.